There's a public story and a private story.
But some of the work felt like it was covert, secret work.
All about the profit in the business.
Secret, shady, funded by government.
Like a cover-up.
And it feels like a conspiracy.
This is a high-level guy that is really working with the...
You're watching the FFG archives, uncovering our remote viewing debriefs from the vault, raw, unfiltered, and decades ahead of their time, now released for the first time on YouTube. Watch them all at futureforecastinggroup.com.
Today is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. The time is 8:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, there was something going on with a person here. Probably one of the interesting things was that the person seemed to talk like a politician and seemed a little bullshitty to me. So I'll leave it at that.
I see a person who ends up having what looks like a heart attack and a surgery. I see like they pry some people open and I see them operating on someone. Pump, pressure, panic, stabilize, removal. Not looking good for this person.
I'm going to say, oh shit, right here.
Yeah, me too. I had heart stuff myself.
Yes.
Because I didn't, oh shit, given what Naim just, when I was a reporter, a young reporter, this was way back in the early 70s, at the University of Utah Medical Center, they invented an artificial heart. It was the Jarvik heart, and it was a huge story. And I covered it, and there was national media, and they put artificial heart. Okay, I see a guy in a hospital bed, and I'm thinking of the Jarvik artificial heart. There's a heart, he's being kept alive by something pumping. So medical issue kind of thing. That looks just like what Naim drew.
I'm going to pick this. So it's all words, so I'll have to read it out. I had a subtle feeling of someone who's being manipulated, and they were being run, a bit like you'd run an agent or a spy. All felt very covert, secret, underhand, and it felt like this person's being watched by intelligence agencies. It's all involving this really complex situation.
Let's talk about this week's target. Hi, crypto fans. Dennis Nappy II here. This week, we move away from cryptos and are looking at a relevant personality target who has been in the news predominantly, especially over the past year plus. He's someone we're all well aware of who is closely linked to the United States response to the coronavirus pandemic. Have to see. I'm joined with Dick Allgaier, Daz Smith, Naim, and Edward Reardon. And we're going to take a look at our target this week. Who is it? Dr. Fauci. Here we go. The tasking on this document was the viewers to look at Dr. Anthony Fauci and describe his intentions. What has the doctor been involved in? Are his intentions good? And did he receive a real dose of the mRNA vaccine? Here's some background on Dr. Fauci. I'm not going to go through his background. I think it's pretty common knowledge who he is and what he's been involved in. I'd rather us just get to our data before we start. Any comments at this point now that we know what the target was?
Well,
Yeah, we put this out. The men in black are going to come round us all up.
Yeah,
It's quite
really.
possible.
The force
They'll be not like,
Yeah.
put up. You're
That's why,
surrounded, Allgaier. You know.
as I was saying, we will proceed with caution as we review our data on this one. So let's stick to the data here. Who went first? Edward, do you want to start us off, sir?
Sure thing. Okay. All right. This is interesting. First off, I was in a structure and I was in this place, and it felt like a warehouse to me, in that it was this big place, facility, something like that, and it felt like a significant place. This starts off at this warehouse facility place. So I had to ask, is something there? Or is the place significant in another way? So is it the place, or is it something going on there? How does it relate to the target, I ask? And I see these people, they're in a meeting. And they're a meeting of two people. And why is this important, though, I wonder? And it felt like two heads of state or two influential people. This feels important, but important why? It's like a business meeting. But what kind of business? Like a joint venture or two businesses coming together, that kind of a thing. And I had this AOL, like a Gavin Newsom or whatever, an influence thing, influential people making a deal, a venture. There is money, possible financial backing or support, putting up money. Has a political feel, if not political, then a public person. But what's it about, though, I'm wondering? An operation of some kind. One wants to do something, and the other has resources to back it. Again, it has this political feel to it, or someone who talks a lot like a politician. How does this relate to the tasking, though, I'm wondering? The person the person who is taking the money. But what about this person? They may be there may be some shady deals related to this person, possible criminal history or something in the persona. This person talks like a politician, smooth talker, kind of bullshitty, slick Willie type. Different stories being told, an obfuscation. But different stories, well, what does that mean? There's a public story and a private story, a public face and a private face. And in between is a mystery. But what's the mystery, though, I'm wondering? Like a cover-up of some kind. But what kind of cover-up? A public story about what happened to someone. But what happened? A reaction to something. This part does feel like a reaction. How is the story presented, though, I'm wondering? There's not much of a story at all. It's more like a hidden reality. Stage 7, which was a phrase that came into my mind, don't tell anyone. Like it's a heart attack, pre-existing conditions, heart surgery. This person is vulnerable. Is it a heart attack? It feels like it. The kind of condition in which a person is left feeling like any moment could be the last. But you have to live. You have to keep making deals. Keep working in spite of a probability. You must. You could say a hole in the heart or in a valve in the heart. Either way, it's a ticking time bomb. But what do? Heart transplant? Completely compromised? Blood transfusions? Bad blood? Oh, spike proteins in that blood? You can't get away from it if you rely on the medical establishment. They will get you one way or another. Heart rate high, irregular, heartbeat can give you a stroke. Who wants to think about that? Not me. Unfortunately, this person seems physically compromised and knows it. This is another stage 7. I wish I could go back in time. The vitality of youth, all the time in the world, the finality of it all. This person has or had a final goal. Stage 7 again, something to remember me by. Another stage 7, was it worth it? Is this person left with just stories or accomplishments, I wonder? Regrets? I've had a few. Another stage 7. Why did I waste so much time? If I could do it all again. Like a bad heart valve, a bad ticker. At some point, inevitability catches us all. Another stage 7. But you've done so much, someone could say. Just take it one day at a time, 1 second at a time, and complete what you want to complete. They can't take that away from you. And that was how it ended.
Edward,
Wow.
this person with the heart condition, do you think that's Fauci or somebody connected to this somehow? What are your thoughts on that?
If Fauci is not in any kind of condition like that,
As far as I know, I haven't seen that.
as far as we know, so if that's not related to him, either it's imagination on my end, I went off target, or it could be something related to the two vaccine issues.
Yeah.
Where they'll blame it on everything else except for the vaccine.
I mean, the tasking asks, what has the doctor been involved in? Are his intentions good? And did he receive the real dose of the mRNA? So maybe somewhere in there lies our answer. Can you go up to the part where you're talking about money earlier in your session?
Oh, yeah, that was a good part.
I think it was the page where they were shaking hands. Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Feels important, like a business meeting. All right, scroll down a little bit. Joint venture, 2 businesses coming together, that kind of thing. Okay. There is money, possible financial backing or support. Putting up money has a political feel. If not political, then a public person. Can I share my screen? I want to share something.
Yeah.
So this is out. Actually, let's do screen 2 completely. This was out, I want to say 10 hours ago. This is August 2nd. I'm sorry. This was U.S. money used to fund risky research in China from BBC. It's just talking about the debate, how the link's an unproven theory that it could have leaked from a lab. But it says a report released by the Republican lawmakers cites ample evidence that the lab was working to modify to infect humans and calls for bipartisan investigation. Public Senator Rand Paul also alleges that U.S. money was used to fund research there that made some viruses more infectious and more deadly, a process known as gain of function. This has been firmly rejected by Dr. Anthony Fauci. And then Yahoo has a similar story covered here. Internal documents further contradict Fauci's gain of function research denials, connecting him to that. So that might be the business deal that you were seeing there in your data, Edward. I thought that was curious.
And that facility warehouse thing too, maybe. The
could have been Wuhan or wherever it was they were doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into the other viewer sessions where they're looking at the heart stuff, but I don't know that the heart stuff was your imagination. I'm not sure how it fits yet, but I know we see side effects, with some of this stuff, so maybe that's where it is. Okay, Edward, thank you. Great session. Naim, you want to go next?
Yeah. So, Dr. Fauci, one of my visual ideograms, I saw some glasses, a person with glasses. That was one of the first things I saw there. Let me just reshare this. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see it. There you go.
Yeah, I got the glasses there at the beginning.
Definitely.
I saw, one of the first things I saw was a guy walking upstairs. It was like boarding, like walking onto a plane, like boarding onto a plane or something like that. I get like flight path. It felt presidential, you know what I mean? And what he was he is in part of presidential. He's in the White House's staff, right? Voices, people observing on the side. This was like, I think this is like inside a plane or a jet, like curved interior, narrow space. And I get a sense that like, this is almost like a secret, I guess kind of like a lab or something. I get like something scientific going on in here. Dilute, measure, seal, like lots of equipment, almost like when they show like the ISS, that kind of view, like a very narrow rounded area with like equipment in it. Yeah, maybe he has like a little private area on the jet where he's doing some stuff. I don't know, but somehow related to this.
It sounds like some supervillain stuff.
Yeah, I saw him. I almost thought it was Biden for a second. I saw the gray gray hair, but I was like, no, it's not Biden. But I get executive, high roller, no nonsense, corporate, lavish living. He can be welcoming. Oh, he had the nasally voice. I got that. He's almost treated like royalty. I get like he's royal, all about the profit and the business. And I get that he even has connections to like trading or the stock exchange or something like that. Yeah, I get again, executive, serious. He's a public figure. I get anatomy, precision. But then I get this stuff over here. I get like injury. I get like he goes septic, or that's what I get here. It's like surgery, medical. So I'm like,
and that's him that goes septic, you think, Naim?
Yeah, it looked like the same person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if you guys are getting data on, the future of Fauci or the future of him.
Yeah, or maybe it's a patient, but it,
right.
I didn't really get that impression.
Right.
But the next thing I see is someone on a bed with two people in like protective PPE stuff, and I get like surgery, incision, cut, implant. There's an urgent emergency. A detriment, almost it's like someone succumbs, farewell is the sense I get there. I think I saw him when he was younger.
Wow.
And I wrote like, he kind of reminds me of Tom Cruise, the way his attitude was, like very straightforward, good looking guy. That's what I wrote there. Yeah, so I did another ideogram and I get like, powerful, driven, but then I get this hurt, injured. Their practice, their experience, their agenda, and their plan is stop or ended. And I get a sense like maybe they try to make a recovery. And so I look again, and then this time was like graphic. Like I saw like kind of like down into this opening, and it was like, I wrote like, they have his chest open and I can see inside blood and organs, heart attack, pump, pressure, incision, panic, a sense of maybe a prosthetic that maybe they're trying to put one in there, or maybe he has one. Stable, repair, breach, cut, mend, removal. And then, yeah, this was crazy. I saw like a vessel, like a blood vessel, and I saw this bulge in there, and I get a sense of a clot, a blockage, impede, pump, withdraw, removal.
I'm curious. I mean, with that data, I mean, how would you interpret that? I mean, we can look at, I mean, that's just what happens with a heart attack, but that's what we're also seeing with the clotting issues from some. It's also what we're seeing with clotting issues from, any thoughts on kind of where that might be coming from, Naim?
Well, I had I saw someone on a bed slumped, looks dead to me. And on my last take here, I get like sick, clotting, and I get like inoculated, transfer, meningitis, infection, carditis, death, dead, buried, sorrow. And like, I had the sense like when I was seeing this blood clot thing, obviously like, I was thinking in the back of my head, like, is this a thing? Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, so this might be, I get like that, like probing for like I get like yes. So
okay, is that what you wrote down there? Next, yes.
Yeah. So that's what I get on that one.
Okay, curious. Definitely curious. How strong do you think, the possibility at that point, maybe it would be, is front loading the right term, or your imagination, or do you think because this is such a relevant story in all of our lives, or how confident are you in that data point?
It's hard to say. This inoculated, that, all that stuff that felt, right. I wasn't really front loading myself with those, but
right.
It's hard to say, and it's hard to say if this was all the same person throughout. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because a part of the tasking is like, what is he involved in? He's probably overseen or been involved with a lot of these kinds of things.
A lot of things. Yeah. I agree. I think your inoculated data is very, very strong data. Yeah. Definitely. Great session, Naim. Thank you. All right, Mr. Smith. Let's look at the spy world that you dug us into. This is where they're going to tap our phones after this session, if they're not already tapped.
They're doing that anyway. Okay, so start off with an ideogram with 3 parts, A, B, and C. A is a structure, a large structure, and it felt broad from me, very corporate feeling. There was a lot of energy about this person, both positive and negative, and this was like a battle internally. And the main person was a life male, very fault-driven, all in his head, and he was a well-known personality. Here's the person again. He's tall, outspoken, over 40s, male, educated, and had a professor feel to him. An educated, intelligent person, a thinker with deep thoughts. And he's working on all these designs, theories, and scenarios. And he was a planner. And this is to do with a multi-leveled structure as well. I felt like it had a lot to do with design and concepts. And it had an engineering lab feel with concepts being explored. And they were to do with math, science, engineering, computations. And it was all about this person was playing with numbers with all this as well. And then I looked at the numbers in a bit more detail and broke that down a bit. And I got things like code, secret, shady, funded by government, which was covert, all about being evaluated in a large complex structure, looking at algorithms. There was all these geometric signals in exposure and risk involved as well. The life himself was tall, thin, wiry, over 40, male, foreign to me. Feels important, he's known, he's professional, educated, rich, and he's an expert. And he's an expert in engineering and bioengineering, genetics, code, numbers, science, general feel from all that. And he's very accomplished in these. Looking at life again, I got that he had grey hair, he was owed, affluent, a bit of a control freak, maybe with a touch of ADHD about him. He's working on a complex solution to a problem. And this is lots. I kept seeing all these papers, diagrams, and code speculations. He's under a lot of stress working to a deadline, but some of the work felt like it was covert, secret work, with negotiations and presentations. And then I had this subtle feeling of this life was being manipulated, being run a bit like a spy or an agent. And this had something to do with covert, secret, kind of underhand feel. He's definitely being watched. And then I asked by who, and I had the intel agencies from the USA, Israel, and others. Because he's involved in a complex situation, and this might have something to do with money laundering. Then I tried to work out what the tasker actually wanted to know. So I asked a question here, what do they want to know? And I had an idea that this was complex, and it was based in the future. And the answer was yes, or yes he will. I wrote here multiple layers here. This feels like a future-based question. Currently multiple timelines, but yes is the most probable answer. But I also had this thing that we should be cautious here, because this is a powerful, connected person.
Cautious how, Daz? Cautious in how we're reporting our session, or cautious in trusting this guy? What do you think?
I think because there were so many intelligence agencies involved that we should be cautious because this was an important person, an important player.
Okay.
And I wrote here in my final notes, okay, this is new for me. This feels like a person working with the intel or being watched and closely followed by intel. He has different security services involved. He's a powerful, connected man, very influential. And then I had this, be careful though. Something feels off here. This feels like a future-based decision. Lots of compact layers, but the answer is yes. And it feels like a conspiracy. And then I wrote here right at the end, we need to be careful here.
And I want to explore that a little bit. Two things. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to the tasking. I really don't see a yes or maybe. I mean, I'm looking at the tasking.
It might be an answer to him being injected because that is a question, isn't it?
That's what I'm looking at here. So our tasking document, did he receive a real dose of the M? So you're saying the answer is yes, he received a real dose of it.
If that's the key answer that the tasker wanted to know, then yes.
Because it could be, are his intentions good? And the answer could be yes.
I don't think so. Not with all the conspiracy data in there, and the money laundering and stuff.
So you think 4 is he received a real dose of the vaccine?
I think that would be yes if I went on my data.
Okay. So then my question is, what do we need to be cautious about?
I don't know, because I wrote here that we need to be careful here.
Us, our team.
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree, Daz. That's why, before we started, I said we're going to stick to just the data. We're going to be careful with what we say, because there are a lot of eyes with a lot of power behind them on this.
Because when we did the talk, we had the Joe McMoneagle talk that I did the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Dick was there, and Naim came later. I don't know if he heard this bit, but we had one of the Stargate viewers there, Angela Ford. She was like what they call one of the witches, But she's one of the ones that's been working with Joe and Edward May for many years for intelligence agencies.
Right.
She said, because we were talking about our mushroom cloud sessions on there, we were showing some of the stuff, all of us, and she said that top people she knows in the Navy, I can't remember who she named as a person, had seen our data, and they're all looking at our data.
Yeah, I figured somebody would get a hold of that data and be looking at it.
She's very connected, and she said that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if they're looking at that kind of stuff, then they might be looking at this kind of stuff. And, I think we might have to be a little bit wary in this if we are looking at people in the top echelons of the United States government.
I agree that could get us into some trouble. Especially what we're putting out. We need to proceed with extreme caution on that one.
Yes. I think that's what I might have been picking up on.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And to anybody watching this, hey, if we're crossing the line, just make a phone call. We'll definitely take it down. That's not our intention.
Yeah.
But
that was
okay.
a very impressive session there, Daz. That was really good.
Yeah, that was really good.
Really good.
Yeah. Daz, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, Dick, let's take a look at your data, sir.
Oh, man. I got to tell you that I addressed this target ID and immediately bilocated to like this close to the guy. I saw him from here to here, no more than 18 to 2 feet away. And I immediately had this rush of, let me show you the sketch of the same kind of stuff Daz was getting. And it was so strong that I thought, oh, that's imagination. So I drew him, and I actually stopped the session and redid the session again because it was too strong. It's like, oh, conspiratorial. This is a high level guy that is really working with the powers that be to do. And so I didn't follow that as much as I should have. It felt too strong. I did see where he worked. I said this, he works at a medical center. I did say curving architecture, which was wrong. But if you look at the NIH, I did pretty much get it. I said it was university associated healthcare shit. So let me go through my session. I got ancillary stuff to the, was I sharing that screen there?
Yes, we saw we saw all the things you were sharing, Dick.
Did I stopped that? Okay, let me share the full session here. Okay, so I immediately I see people, and there's one that's more prominent. So I got onto the fact that this was a person target. Some low level ideograms to go from. I see a person with a bandaged head, injured in shock, lost seeping blood, like injuries, like needs medical attention. So I'm getting medical stuff. There's the NIH. I said, this is like, university, like research, triage, healthcare type stuff. And then I see an eyeball, the blood vessels in the eyes, like there's a problem with clotting, like an occlusion, something, vision going bad. People with tremors and spasms, shaking violently, like seizure. Now I'm in a hallway. This was a really good, probably 10-second bilocation where I'm moving down the hallway, and then I turn right, and there's a monitoring, the beeping, the antiseptic smells, bad disease smells, like a nurse's station. And so hospital type stuff. And then I see partially obscured by curtains, somebody in the ICU. A woman's vagina with bleeding issues, abnormal bleeding.
That's curious because Naim had C-section in his data.
Yeah. Person with medical problems, blood issues. Mask, inoculate, intubate, serious hemorrhage.
Can we look at that for a minute again, Dick?
Yeah.
So again, there's that word inoculate, which Naim had.
Intubate,
and then intubate.
Serious hemorrhage.
Is there anything more we can discern from that?
Okay, well, here's the question, and I don't know the answer. Is this the guy, or is this what he's
involved in?
If the target is Anthony Fauci, the idea of Anthony Fauci today, if you say Anthony Fauci, you're going to think of people in masks, people being intubated. So I don't know if it's him,
right,
or if it's what the result of what he's involved
with.
Yeah,
because part of the tasking is what is he involved in? So that could be what he's involved in: masking, inoculating, intubating. Yeah.
See, now we also have the division of effort where both Daz and Edward are going to what he's about, what's motivating him. And I won't characterize what their data said, but clearly it was, some high level guy. So when we're all working in this closed local loop of consciousness, it seems like Naim and I, okay, we're going after the result. Like what are the people, what's going to happen to the people around him, where Daz and Edward were going to the person. So I keep thinking, like I said, the artificial heart, this would be somebody on a respirator too, because I drew something in the guy's mouth, but I got this pump type thing. I see an MRI scan, like I was looking at the skull and spinal column. And then a body is cremated, a modern day cremation, not the World War II camp type of cremations, but modern day. So, God, I just wish I would have followed the first impression I had was so strong. I could have gone 30 minutes of just, it would have been data corroborating Edwards when I saw him so clearly, I didn't recognize him, but that in that moment, that, you know, that thought ball you get, like, oh, this is a high level guy and he's doing something nefarious, and there's controlling, and he's giving one story, but there's a real story. And that whole thing came to me, but so strong, I thought, I can't put that down.
I think
Yeah.
you definitely nailed the medical issues and everything, though. Like, you know, you had the vagina thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this was in the news just today.
Yeah. Yep. That's been ongoing too. I forgot about that. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, and they were worried. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, those were all interesting sessions, and I think we all had good data.
Yeah.
I think we all hit it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I want to go deeper and say, hey, what do we think this data means? But then after looking at Daz's warning in his data, I think that maybe we should just leave it as it is. And we can talk offline about what we think it might mean or might not mean, because let's stick to kind of just the data. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's kind of like, be careful how you task remote viewers, because they might tell you something you're not prepared for. That would be the moral of the story here. And we've seen it all time and time and time again. Like, whoever tasked this, they didn't know. Like, how do you like your blue-eyed boy now, Mr. Death? Isn't that the line of a famous poet? It's like, okay, you sent us to look at this. Here you go. We're not going to comment. That's our data. Like,
Yeah.
You make sense of it. Don't ask us. We just go grab it out of the ether.
Yeah.
When I see Reardon shaking his head. Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. So I think we agree. We're gonna end that session here and let all of you draw your own conclusions on it. That's if we end up releasing this session. But yeah, draw your own conclusions. But I'd say proceed with caution with the comments on it.
Hang on, one. Let me just. There's one thing that I found here.
Here's our Columbo moment.
Fauci warned scary heart symptoms. So
it's November. Yeah, November 2020.
Yeah. I think this is not related to the vaccine, but related to the
to COVID itself.
So,
yeah, I think that's important, and that's what's funky about it, is that some of the side effects are also side effects of COVID, and we need to keep that in mind when we're looking at our data. We don't know if it's COVID related or vaccine related. We don't have enough information at this point. But wow, Dick, you're muted.
That poem I was quoting was Buffalo Bills by E.E. Cummings. Here, I'll put it up. Buffalo Bills defunct, who used to ride a water-smooth silver stallion and break 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pigeons just like that. Jesus, he was a handsome man. And what I want to know is, how do you like your blue-eyed boy, Mr. Death? That's what just came to me.
Wow.
I don't know why I could, but that's just like,
yeah, I'll take that as another warning, which means I'm not going to push this any further.
Well, I think we should put this out privately.
Yeah.
And we're not putting this on YouTube. I won't even tease it. Well, maybe we will.
There it is.
Well, we'll ask our, that was our tease right there.
We'll let the leadership make that decision. Yeah.
Well, we're not just remote viewing data. It could be wrong. It could be imagination.
Yeah, that's why I think we should leave it where it is. So why don't we close this out? We can air out other thoughts offline after that. But any last minute comments from our viewers here on this one? Okay. All right, crypto fans, there you have it. We took a peek at Dr. Anthony Fauci. Wow, didn't see that one coming at all. So on behalf of Dick, Daz, Naim, Edward, and the rest of the crypto viewing team, I'm Dennis Nappy II. Thanks for watching.
Subscribe today for full access to our massive archive of remote viewing debriefs. the past, the present, and the future, only at futureforecastinggroup.com.